Hi, hello, welcome back to Cardinal Territory, presented by Fox One. It's me, your host, Katie Wu. The 2025 MLB season has officially come to an end, with the Los Angeles Dodgers defeating the Toronto Blue Jays 5-4 in 11 innings of Game 7 of the World Series Saturday night to become the first back-to-back world champs in 25 years, capping off one of the most thrilling World Series in recent memory. As someone who was lucky enough to have a seat in the action over the last week, I can't even begin to comprehend the baseball we just saw. It was truly, I think, a World Series that we'll be talking about for a very long time, no matter who you're a fan of, whether you're a Dodgers fan, Blue Jays fan. I feel like 29 fan bases were Blue Jays fans heading into this World Series. But again, no matter who you were rooting for, if you liked crazy baseball, this was the World Series for you. I'm still myself. I just got back from Toronto this evening. I'm still trying to process whatever the heck we just witnessed in this year's Fall Classic. So I'll just go ahead and read a couple of the storylines that we saw. And these are the things that only happened in the World Series. I think overall this postseason was insane, but let's just break down the last 7 days. Okay, so the 2025 World Series was the first to feature all of this per The Athletic. A pinch hit grand slam, that was Addison Barger in Game 1 of the World Series, which feels like 3 weeks ago. 2 extra inning games, 18 innings in Game 3, so that's essentially 2 games if you think about it, and of course 11 innings in Game 7. 2 extra inning homers, Freddie Freeman and Will Smith. A 7-4 double play to end a game. That was Game 6, and one of the most wild endings I can imagine to any baseball game. Back-to-back homers to lead off a game. That was Blake Snell, Game 5. A complete game. Yamamoto, unreal performance through a complete game in Game 2. And if you would have told me that that would somehow have ranked lower on his list of accomplishments this World Series, I would have been astonished. After seeing what he did over the last 7 games, I am at a loss for words. The first 12 strikeout, 0 walk game pitched in World Series history. Trey Savage also set a record for the amount of strikeouts by a rookie in a World Series that game. That was Game 5. A player who reached base 9 times in one game, Mr. Shohei Ohtani, did that in Game 3. And a game-tying 9th homer that flipped the World Series, that happened in Game 7 by Miguel Rojas. So no shortage of missed action there. There was also a benches clearing incident in Game 7, a lodged ball rule in Game 6. Again, an incredible World Series from an entertainment standpoint alone. And shout out to everyone covering that game, whether you were a reporter, analyst, print, digital. I had so much fun over the last month, and now I'm excited to sleep for the next 3 business days. But as we know, Cardinals fans, World Series is over, which means we can officially talk about the Cardinals offseason now because it has officially started. And hey, what do you know? I actually have news for you. Over the last week, Chaim Bloom has started to make some front office changes. We talk about this on The Athletic. If you missed it, good news. You can still find it. There we go. So later, I think Thursday, I don't really know my days right now, full disclosure. I believe this was Thursday. The Athletic reported the Cardinals were to add front office roles and plan to retain the majority of their coaching staff. So let's go ahead and break down what has been going on with the Cardinals front office over the last month, the first month of Chaim Bloom in the president of baseball operations role. There hasn't been a ton of news, but that doesn't mean that things aren't going down behind the scenes. So hopefully this article here can explain this to you. I'll break down a little bit of it. The Cardinals are planning to expand their professional scouting department. We talked about this right as the season ended. This has been a focal point of Chaim Bloom, and they wanted to do that by hiring a director to oversee player acquisition. And they have done so. We'll get to that. They will also hire an international scouting director to serve under assistant general manager Moises Rodriguez. They have also hired one of those. Again, we'll get to that. Additional support roles are expected for both positions, and those will be filled later in the offseason. So already we have 2 new director roles in the Cardinals front office. St. Louis will also look to continue to add to its player development staff. As we all can recall, that was the main emphasis of the Cardinals offseason last year, was to revamp and overhaul that PD staff. They're going to continue to add staffers, specifically look to hire a director of hitting to oversee the offense from an organization-wide approach. It's very similar to what Matt Pierpont is doing as director of pitching. So those are the three major front office hires that we are looking to happen. Again, two of those have already taken place. I'll explain them later in the show. Let's get to the major league side. Barring anything crazy, a few organizations have not yet finalized their coaching staff, but the Cardinals are expected to retain its entire coaching staff under manager Ollie Marmol for 2026, though two coaches have been reassigned to new roles. Those coaches are assistant pitching coach Gene Kiekeifer and game planning coach Packy Elkins. They will no longer be a part of the uniform coaching staff, but they will remain in the organization in strategist roles. So that means the Cardinals will be looking to hire a new assistant pitching coach and a new assistant hitting coach. They already have one of each. Assistant pitching coach Julio Rangel, he'll continue to stay in the organization, and so will assistant hitting coach Brandon Allen. They will keep the same roles. Bench coach Daniel Descalso, hitting coach Brant Brown, pitching coach Dusty Blake, first base coach Stubby Clapp, third base coach Pop Warner, and assistant coach John Jay will also all return to the organization, same positions, as will bullpen coaches Jamie Pogue and Cleninger Turan. Now let's get to the name that you all really care about. It is not believed at this time that there will be a place for Yadier Molina, who has lobbied for major league coaching staff positions on his Instagram earlier this month. Will be on the staff next year, but the Cardinals remain open to finding a role with Molina in the organization. Certainly they want one of their franchise faces to be more involved. And I think that's something Yadi is open to. There has been a lot of rumors and a lot of discourse about where Albert Pujols is going to go, if he's going to go manage the San Diego Padres or not, after an opportunity with the Los Angeles Angels fell through. Could Yadi join that staff? Maybe. But right now, the Cardinals, while not really able to find a spot for Yadi on the major league staff that makes sense for everyone's schedule and everyone's preferences, they do obviously remain open to having him in the organization, maybe as a special instructor similar to last year's role where he's out in spring training this year instead and working with that group of young catchers, because the Cardinals do actually have a ton of young catching talent that we should be excited about. Minor other changes. Head trainer Adam Olson has been promoted to a role in the front office where he'll oversee director of medical training. And so that means the Cardinals will also be hiring a new head trainer as well. Chaim Bloom also will still look to hire a general manager, but as he said in his introductory press conference in September, that might not take place this offseason. So let's go ahead and break down what the main emphasis is going to be outside of the roster, of course, for Chaim Bloom and the new regime. The emphasis will focus on adding to the scouting departments. Let me change this. Let me find another. How do I do this? Hold on. There it is. As myself and the athletic beat writer for the Houston Astros and co-host of the Crush City podcast, Chandler Rome, reported, Chaim Bloom did hire the former Astros farm director and added that pro scouting director hire on Friday. So before we break down what those hires mean, let's kind of establish who they are. So the director of pro acquisition, that will be the same title necessarily as the pro scouting director. That's Joe Douglas. So the Cardinals hired him to oversee the professional scouting department. And his job will be to work under Randy Flores, the director, the Cardinals assistant GM and director of scouting. His job is not changing. He's just getting more support. This will be all pro scout and player acquisition from the professional level focused. So the way scouting works, let's break it down. Under Randy Flores, there's amateur scouting. So that's like the MLB draft, high school collegiate players. There's pro scouting, MLB and minor league scouting. And then international scouting, obviously Latin America, Asia, you take your pick. International seems pretty self-explanatory, even in baseball terms. So Randy Flores' title as scouting director is not changing. They're just adding more support, especially in the pro scouting department, an area that many organizations are cutting or outright eliminating in lieu of programming and analytic models. Chaim Bloom doesn't want to do that. He believes in having a little bit of both and having a full staff of trained scouts on the scene. So that's why he brought back all 7 of the Cardinals pro scouts, and they will report under Joe Douglas. Background on Joe Douglas, who is he? Well, he just spent 8 seasons in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization and most recently served as the head of player analysis. So this is a new position for St. Louis, but clearly someone who has plenty of experience in the whole acquisition process. Douglas will help facilitate the Cardinals player acquisition process overall, and his main responsibilities will again be that pro scouting department. 7 pro scouts doesn't sound like a lot. But the Chicago Cubs don't have any, and the Minnesota Twins have 1 as an example of 2 organizations that have really cut those departments to the extreme. So that will be a new way of augmenting the professional scouting department. Now let's go to international scouting. Jacob Buffa, the Astros former farm director, was hired. He's a Missouri State University graduate. He was hired as the international scouting director. Graduate of Missouri State University and co-founded a baseball performance facility in St. Louis, so a local guy. He spent 7 organizations with the Houston Astros. And according to the Astros media guide, Buffa was responsible for building the organization's first performance science department, and in his most recent role, oversaw biomechanics, sports sciences, and player development. So you want to ask, how does that really correlate with international scouting? That's a good question. But this is someone who's going to work alongside Moises Rodriguez, who has been the director of international scouting for a very long time. His role, again, isn't changing. This is just adding more support to international scouting. And when you look at what the Major League Baseball is doing from an international standpoint, making sure you have a presence in Latin America is one of the top ways to expedite a rebuild. And when you look at what Chaim Bloom did in Tampa Bay and in Boston, that a pretty heavy emphasis in Latin America, those organizations did. So this will be good for the Cardinals, who I know we've all had our qualms about scouting. Amateur scouting, I still think, is fine. And it's also aided by the fact that the Cardinals have 2 top 10 picks in the last 2 years. But the problems with scouting haven't necessarily been amateur. It's been more about not having enough people in the other departments. One thing that I want to make very clear, last year, we talked so much, rightfully so, about the overhaul, the modernization, the revamp of the player development department. We're going to be talking a lot about the scouting department and all the additions, both from a staffing perspective and resources, funding. But what the Cardinals are doing here is a lot different than what they're doing in player development. I don't necessarily think, and I don't think the organization believes this as well, that there was something wrong with the scouting with internationally. I think they just didn't have enough people. And I think a lot of people were being spread thin and not really have been able to do a lot of their jobs. I think the Cardinals have done a nice job, especially lately, of identifying international talent. They just didn't have enough people assigned to that department. And that was one thing that Chaim came in and said, yeah, we should fix this. So when you're seeing different positions being added, especially to the international side, it's not because it was in the same shape as player development. It wasn't. It's just they just didn't have enough of it. It's very modernized. I think they're making strides in the right direction. A lot of good people doing a lot of good things in that department. They just needed more. So these hires from the international standpoint are expected to just add support and give the directors more chance to actually do their jobs and acquire talent. From the professional scouting department, that is more, I think, kind of creating some uniformity and actually having a department that can strictly focus on the professional scouting and player acquisition. The Cardinals have missed a little bit on trades, and that is a two-way street. It also comes to the former president of baseball operations, John Mozeliak, being able to, seal the deal in those kinds of trades and find the talent that the Cardinals wanted. So I don't think it's fair to totally blame that on professional scouting. But one thing that I want to make very clear as we go into this offseason, we're going to hear more and more about different positions being added in scouting departments. This rehaul is much different than the player development modernization. This is about adding more resources and continuing the work and the change that has already been going on, especially internationally. Well, last year, the revamp of the player development was because that part of the organization was so outdated. I don't see that here with scouting. So that's what's been going on behind the scenes in Cardinals land. We will have, within the next 5 days, off-season news to monitor. Miles Michaelis is officially a free agent. That's the only free agent the Cardinals have right now. The offseason begins technically today. All free agents, I believe 137 of them, have 5 days to negotiate with their current team on coming back on a deal. Once that 5-day window expires, they're officially unrestricted free agents and can sign with anyone. The unofficial start day of the offseason is MLB's GM meetings, and those are scheduled to begin. Let me pull up my calendar again because I don't know what date it is. November 10th in Las Vegas. So I hope everyone enjoys their 7-day offseason. That's when we'll start to kind of hear what teams are looking to do from a roster standpoint. Right now, the only thing that teams not in the playoffs have been able to do, because there have been no players to go acquire, has been revamp their own internal workings. So we've seen Chaim Bloom get off to a good start with that. He pledged at his press conference that he was looking to add positions, not subtract. He retained most of the coaching staff, very minimal turnover, some changes, but has indeed added significant positions already to the organization. So that's where we're at with the Cardinals offseason. Let's get right into it with our DK DraftKings player segment of the week. Stay with me. Okay. I don't think. There we go. Our DraftKings player spotlight. Oh, we have a slow internet today, you guys. It'll pop up. Just give me time. There we go. Our DraftKings player spotlight will go to none other than Mason Wynn. And congratulations is in order for the Cardinals shortstop who just won his very first National League Gold Glove Award. Let's get it from Mason. Yay. Oops, that's not it either. Oh, this internet is going to bug me, guys. Hold on. All right, here we go. Okay, let's start over. Congratulations are in order for Mason Wynn. The Cardinal shortstop just locked up his first ever National League Gold Glove. Well deserved for a player who played through a torn meniscus for 4 months and made just 3 errors all year. He has set the standard defensively for the Cardinals at shortstop, and he's a true pro to cover. I think anyone that works in Cardinals media will tell you Mason Wynn, total pro. Great guy to just be around every day, and certainly worked very hard for this award. It is well deserved. He's become the youngest shortstop at 23 years old to win the National League Gold Glove. So congratulations for Mason. Caught up with a couple of people inside the organization who stress again that Mason will be good to go for spring training in 2026. His opening day status should not be impacted. Very excited for Mr. Mason Wynn, who I think will be the first to tell you that while he achieved a ton of stuff defensively, was certainly not happy with his offensive ceiling. And I expect that to be a big focal point for him coming into next year. But right now, let's go ahead and celebrate one of the best defensive shortstops I've seen. And I think if we're looking towards a period of contention, Mason Wynn, when the Cardinals get there, will be right in the center of it all. So yeah, congratulations, Mason Wynn. Injury updates on the 3 other players who underwent surgery. Brendan Donovan, Ivan Herrera will be good to go for spring training. Lars Nootbaar, they didn't give him a timetable because they just kind of want to play it by ear. I know Chaim Bloom went on KMOX Sports on a Sunday with Matt Pauley and said that his opening day status is in jeopardy. I think with Nootbaar, we have to remember that he is unfortunately a player who is injury prone. And his recovery time does take a little bit longer than the standard recovery time sometimes. But as we sit here in November, it's just simply too early to predict what that recovery will look like, which I think is why the Cardinals are being a little vague on that timeline. They just don't know. It depends on the player. A good article from Lars about Lars from Derek Gould in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch kind of explaining where he stands, how he's rehabbing, and why that surgery was needed in the first place. Go check it out. But yeah, 3 out of the 4 players, including Mason Wynn, should be locks to start for normal spring trainings. We will monitor Lars Nootbaar accordingly. Special shout out to Victor Scott II, friend of the show, who was nominated in center field for the Gold Glove Award as well. That award went to Pete Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs, but Victor Scott certainly notable for what he did defensively as well. All right, that is our DraftKings player segment. You can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. We'll be right back after this quick break. If it loads, we'll see. Maybe. All right.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. So this is very fitting that all of my ad reads are lagging a little bit because I have some bittersweet news for you all. This is my last episode hosting Cardinal Territory. Now, don't worry, the show will go on just without me. I want to make very clear that this was my decision. As the offseason begins, we have some changes coming up across the board. And stepping down from the host role for this show just made the most sense with all those changes factoring in. The new version of Cardinal Territory will begin very soon, as early as next week. And I think you will all love the new hosts. And if you are Cardinals fans, you'll also be quite familiar with them. Again, this was totally my decision. I've really loved working at Foul Territory. I've loved this podcast, but with a lot of things kind of up in the air this offseason and some changes happening, stepping down made the most sense, not just for myself, but for the show. We obviously didn't have a ton of episodes in October, and in September, it became really hard to record consistently. And I just wanted to make sure that we're leaving this podcast and the show in good hands. And I truly think we are. So I would like to sincerely thank everyone who has liked, subscribed, watched, or interacted with the show in any capacity. I really did have so much fun doing this with Bernie, with our interview guests. This was a different media for me to try as someone who had pledged to be writer only. And I appreciate everyone who stuck with me, especially early on with those ad reads. Again, I got so much better with them. I don't know why they were so bad this episode, whatever. But you really made the show fun for me. I still hope to contribute to the Foul Territory Network as well on occasion. Those guys from Scott to AJ to Kratz to our producers, Mark and Jeremy and Claudia, everyone across the board, George on our social team. I feel really thankful to have been able to contribute to this network for the last almost a year now. And again, I'm very confident I'm leaving it in good hands, but that will not mean that I won't miss you. So I sincerely hope you all stick around for the show. Who knows, maybe I'll be invited on as a contributor next year some point during the season. And again, I still hope to make regular appearances on Foul Territory, and I still will be, of course, at the Athletics, so you can find me there. But again, thank you so much for all of you who have subscribed and watched this show. I've enjoyed the commentary, whether it's on Twitter or the YouTube comments. You guys have made me laugh a lot, and it's been fun to just kind of talk about the Cardinals. When I started this podcast, because rightfully so, reporting and writing is so formal, by the book, professional. It should be. But podcast, you have a little bit more ability to show some personality. And I just wanted the show to be like something where if you walked into a bar or a restaurant, this is a conversation you could have and you could just kind of fit right in and talk without being like super disparaging or negative about the organization, but also acknowledging its shortcomings in a way that you can't really do as an objective print reporter. So this was fun again for me to try. And I hope that everyone who acknowledged the show was able to at least come away with something new or a different perspective and learn something about their favorite baseball team. I know for a fact that just because I won't be a part of the show anymore doesn't mean that that will not be the case going forward. I think, again, you guys will all love the new hosts and their brand. They are a funny group of people. And that new episode, the Cardinal Territory 2.0, if you will, should begin very soon. So that's all I got from you guys. Plenty of things to break down for the Cardinals coming up and what will be a very busy offseason under Chaim Bloom. You can check it out again on The Athletic and here at the Foul Territory Network. Cardinal Territory has you covered. Thank you so much for having me be a small part of it. Not goodbye. See you later. We will talk very soon. Thanks as always.